All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Coach Steve Show podcast. Today, I have a guest with me finally. Going to get guests back. I have Coach Ambrose. He is the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Franklin High School in Wisconsin. Coach, thank you for being here. We talked for about 15, 20 minutes of our time already, but thanks for being here on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
That always happens.
It's kind of been a long time coming, I guess. I know you reached out to me, I think, before this season, and then it was just things got crazy and we never hooked up. And now finally here we are.
Yeah, because I never know exactly when people's football seasons go because Illinois is different from everybody else. Like in the summer, we can have 20 – it got cut down to 20 days this summer. We can be around the kids for 20 days, not counting weightlifting. Weightlifting doesn't count. So – and then I know some states are – they don't see them for a month. And so when I reach out to people, I don't know what their football thing is. I'm that ignorant person who's like, oh, everybody's the same unless you're Texas. It's all the same.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we only get five days in the summer with our guys to actually have practice. And we start, like, our official season starts a week before you guys too down there. So we started, I think August 3rd was our first official day, but we can have those 5 days spread out however we want in the summer. We typically do all five just the week. So we have a dead week the week prior to the season starting. We typically do all five the week right before that. So kind of like a little mini camp. Everybody gets a week off and then we come back and then we're full go the rest of the way. So
that kind of stinks. Only 5 days of like actual football. Now, can you do the weight room all summer? Does that count?
Yeah, we can do unlimited weight room. Yeah. Okay. We usually do 4 days a week in that. And then our guys we do a few like 7-on-7 passing leagues that we're in. I think we were in 2 or 3 of them this past summer. So that's typically, I think, Sunday nights and Wednesday nights. And then we did a tournament too as well. So we get that stuff in. Those, we're not technically supposed to coach in the 7-on-7s. We can be there. We don't call the plays or whatnot, but obviously, like, if we see something glaring, that happens, we'll, pull a kid aside and be like, hey, maybe do this next time. But they call their own plays and stuff. I usually just bring the binder of like all of our diagrams and here you go, guys. We were lucky this year. Our QB is committed to Wisconsin. He's actually signing tomorrow. So he in the summer, because obviously we know how good he is. So he basically would just be the coordinator for our 7-on-7 team. I just say, here you go, Miles, have at it, man. And then let all our young guys get the reps. So that worked out pretty well.
Well, like in Illinois, if you do a 7-on-7, that comes out of your contact day, that 20 days. Even if you don't do nothing, it still counts. So
that's wild.
Yeah. So you don't see a lot of, you can do like lineman camps and stuff. Those sort of don't count because I know there's a school here, they call it Battle of the Big Butts. They invite all these offensive linemen. But yeah, 7-on-7s, it counts. So like if you get 20 days and you say we're going to go to 3 7-on-7s, well, there's 3 days. You only got 17.
Okay. Yeah, I think we could choose to use them if we wanted to go coach those. But I think for us, being we only get 5 days, we feel like we get better use out of having actual practices with everybody rather than spending a day on just a 7-on-7 where, you don't get any time with your linemen then or any of the big guys, which, or the run game. So we prefer to save it and just go full bore practice for 5 days instead. So.
Yeah. And I've been a part of all over where people use them all of June. They go a week, wait a little bit, another week, and then another week. And then one school I was at, they used like 5 days in June and the rest all in July. So it was like a week of practice, week and a half off, and you come right back.
Yeah.
But I liked it because they could just roll right into it. They were like, we already know what's going on. If you got an upperclassmen in there that are pretty good, they just roll with it. So, but yeah, when I asked you, I just assume everybody has the same schedule. And then I did it when we got done. I messaged people and I was like, as soon as I sent the messages, Steve, you idiot, they still might be playing because not everybody gets done in Illinois in October. They go into November, or, they're not going to do that unless, because in Illinois, if you make the playoffs, you can go on for another 4 weeks. But some schools, they only play 7 games or 8 games. So I'm ignorant when it comes to that. I'm like, that's fine. I'm done. So everybody's done.
Right. Yeah, we won the state championship this year. So we went late, so we played 14 all the way. Our like I said, we're a week ahead, so our championship game was November 19th. So we went all the way from August 3rd till then. So
well, congratulations on the state title.
Thank you. Yeah, very, very exciting. Yeah, it's a long haul, but it was a fun year. We had a really good group of kids, a very talented group. Like I mentioned, Miles is going to Wisconsin. We probably have, 6 or 7 other pretty big time college kids too. We had a linebacker today commit to North Dakota. Our left tackle is going to sign with Syracuse tomorrow. We've got, I think, 4 other guys with D1 with FBS Power 5 offers too. So we got some dudes on our team. That helps. So
I was gonna say, it must be nice to have some Division I. Like, all right, I'll just draw this play up. They can do that. That's fine. They understand it.
Yeah. My job was pretty easy this year for the most part. It was honestly, our game plan meetings. It was typically, we'd have to kind of pull back the reins on ourselves sometimes, because it's like, we have such a talented group that we really could have, we probably could have installed just about whatever we wanted and been fairly successful with it. So it was a lot of times, hey, we have all these things that we like, but let's just pick out the, 5 or 6 things that we really like, and we're going to go with that, rather than, all right, let's put in all 12 new things that we came up with. So yeah, good year, a lot of fun. So it's my first time. I'd never played in a state championship. I'd never coached in it. So this was my first time. We came out and went out there, played pretty well, and won it. So it was very cool experience.
Yeah, well, 2 things real quick. One, I'm going to have to root against your quarterbacks. I'm an Illinois fan, unfortunately. So whenever they play Wisconsin, I'm going to have to root for Illinois. And Wisconsin will probably win. That's no doubt. And then I helped out Dino Babers at EIU because I went there for spring ball when he was the head coach. So he's a good dude. So that's, regardless of what people say, good dude. He'll figure it out. So that's good.
Yep.
I've worked around Dino Babers for 2 spring ball seasons. And Jimmy G was there, got to see how that works, and he's a good dude. Nice. So that's a good.
Yeah. We have a receiver with an offer from Illinois, and we have a few guys that have PWOs from Illinois as well. So we had a tight end. Our tight end from last year is there right now too. I think he switched. He's now playing outside linebacker though. Marco Reykjavik. He's a really good player for us. So he's been there. He doesn't travel with to road games. So he's gotten some special teams reps at some home games. So we got some Illinois connections too. And I know our O-line coach is very, very close with Bart Miller, the O-line coach at Illinois, because Bart actually recruited our O-line coach's son when he went to college, and ended up getting him to Florida Atlantic before he moved on out to Wyoming. So we know him really well. We have a good relationship with those guys. They were actually just up, not last week, the week before. They came up, spent a bunch of time with 4 of our guys. So we know them well too. So good staff. So
yeah, they don't stop working.
No.
Like when Bielma got the job, he immediately called our high school president, representative, and then our head coach gets a phone call like twice a month from a coach there. Like we all do. Like they are just nonstop recruiting. Because Lovie Smith never showed his face in a high school up here ever.
Yeah, that's crazy. Once. Yeah. Bielema, I know he always did a really good job in Wisconsin recruiting, and I know I think under Lovie, they really didn't come up here very much, and I know they're really kind of sticking their tentacles back up into the state up here to grab a few guys. I know they've got a couple, I think, O-line commits from up here, and then like I said, they offered our one receiver, a linebacker, a lineman. I'm trying to remember if they offered Miles or not. I don't remember if they ever offered him or not, but I know they were in on him. They did like him. I don't know. Maybe he might have committed before they offered, because as soon as he got the Wisconsin offer, he committed right away. So
he probably did. He's offering quarterbacks left and right. They need a quarterback, something bad. So
yeah,
something bad. They need a quarterback.
Right.
But one thing I'm interested real quick. Well, not real quick, but so I'm always curious what kind of offense, because I'm an offensive guy. I've been an offensive guy my whole life. So like what is your offensive identity that you guys do up there? Like I know every state's different. Back where I'm from, it's under center wing T stuff. Then I go up to the suburbs, everybody's spread, everybody's doing RPO just because it's bigger schools. So like what kind of offense you guys run? Do you see that offense all over the place? Are you just unique in where you're located?
Well, we actually led the state of Wisconsin in passing this year. So we throw the ball quite a bit. I think we were just shy of 4,000 yards passing. We are primarily, I would say, I don't want to say like really pro style spread, but we have a lot of elements of that, but we definitely still run a lot of the spread stuff. So like if I was to say, like what teams could you look at and see where we've stolen a lot of stuff from, like the 2019 LSU team. I really liked a lot of the things that they did, and they really got me into the compressed formation stuff. Like we've gotten really big into those kind of sets, like 3x1 type bunch, with the tight end in there, the 2x2 stuff. But they were exclusively out of gun, and we took kind of that same idea, and then I really studied the Rams and the Packers with what they do with the especially the wide zone stuff. We're primarily, we were exclusively zone blocking, and we don't run any gap scheme at all. We don't run power or counter. Our gap scheme is ISO and wham. That's kind of, which are just for us tags off of our inside zone scheme. We do run some stuff. We stole a few things from Coastal Carolina. Some of their like center down play, pull the center, almost looks like split zone where you pull the center back. We use that as like a counter. We like that. We used it quite a bit in the playoffs and ended up being a really good play for us down the stretch. And we incorporated some RPO stuff off of that as well. Passing game, we've become, pretty heavy play action. We went in the tight compressed sets, going under center, and then the faking wide zone stuff. We got a lot of mileage out of that this year. That's been really, really good for us. We throw, our regular drop back game is probably nothing crazy. We're a really big 3-level team. Run a lot of different flood concepts, like what you'd say like a sail concept, kind of a field flood. We run like a boundary flood. We run like a lot of high cross stuff, Y cross, that kind of thing. But we're really big at 3 verticals. That's really kind of our go-to play. So if you've listened to any of the ones on like when I was on Run the Power, we talked about it on there. We run kind of a hybrid of a play that I stole from LSU, which I'm sure if you guys watched them in 2019, you saw the play. I think Joe Brady brought it from the Saints. They just call it doubles. So it's, you're going to get 2 basically streak reads on the outside, and then you're going to get a middle read. They ran it more of all 3 just running straight vertical. We adjusted it to more of where that the guy running the middle read really attacks right down the middle of the field. And against a too high look, you're going to get, really just 3 guys running vertical. And then we always have guys in each flat. So it's always 3 vertical, 2 flat. If we ever see 1 high, we give that middle read guy the option to bend it off, and it essentially turns into Y cross. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of a hybrid play. That's been really, really good for us. We've really been able to dress that up a lot of different ways, and we get a ton of mileage out of that. We've had, I think every game we probably would have 2 or 3 variations of it in there that we liked, and we just get a ton of mileage out of that. So that's kind of where we are now. Really big screen team too. We run a lot of screens. So I've been at Franklin for 3 years. Prior to that, I coached actually at a different school in the same league. So I went against these guys for several years, and they always just killed everybody with screens. So when I got there, I said, I really want to keep all the screens because they were really good at them. We've dressed them up and done some different things with them. Some of the best ones that we have now are, like the under center, let's fake outside zone, start rolling, and then throw back. Whether we throw it back to the running back, we'll throw it back to the tight end. We have a tunnel screen coming back inside off of that. So those have been really, really good for us. And they're really, this year, especially with how much we were throwing the ball, we had a lot of success with those. So yeah, we're probably, this year, especially with Miles, I'd say, I don't know the exact, off the top of my head, the exact breakdown, but we probably were, I would say we're maybe, I don't want to say 60-40 pass, maybe 55-45. But we ended up being relatively balanced, I would say. We were just shy of 4,000 yards passing. We did still have over 2,000 yards rushing. I think we had we were over 40 touchdowns in each. So we had over 40 passing touchdowns and over 40 rushing touchdowns on the season. So we were relatively balanced. Fortunately, we had a lot of talent on our team, which helped too. We had three really good receivers. We had 2 really good running backs. Obviously, our quarterback is very good, so that helps. But I think the 3, like I said, that 2019 LSU team, what Sean McVay has been doing in LA, and then what the Packers have been doing since Matt LaFleur got there, are really the biggest influences of where we're at right now.
Well, we know the Packers stuff works. They just beat my Bears again, so we always know it works. It doesn't matter what happens there. What was I going to ask? I liked how you said zone. I'm a big zone guy. I love zone. Mm-hmm. And I brought that with me. Became the run game coordinator here. I brought that with me. Like, I want to run zone. They wanted to be gap, and I kind of convinced them to do both. Like, we're going to do ISO or inside zone. We can do ISO. But I had to teach them for ISO, you guys do a wing and insert the old school way. Some people say I'm wing T and call it, it's belly to them. So when I describe it to be oh yeah, it's belly. I take that as an insult. I'm I'm not a wing T person. We're a spread T. Don't call it belly. It's just inserting the tight end or the running back. It's all good. It's downhill run play.
Yeah.
And then we, did you guys do any zone insert stuff off of that? We brought that.
Yeah. So we essentially use that ISO base is how we would do that. So yeah, kind of the same thing. So really the way that how we would call it, right? So we have just our base zone, right? Which, for us is a full zone where we're leaving the backside defensive end. And then we have a series of tags that, we can either tell an H-back or a wing or a tight end how we're going to block that guy. And then we have a separate call that tells our linemen now, okay, well, we're going to lock the backside, and that's our, insert call, right? And then we also then have a series of tag words that we use to insert a wing or a fullback. We actually, we line up in the I sometimes to still now, so that's, I think it became pretty good for us because I think most teams that we play have never seen it. So it's almost the new novelty thing is what we used to do way back in the day. So we do a lot of that. Our wham scheme has been really, really good for us. We really like to actually wham a zero nose. That's been the best way that we've done that. And then, like I said, the center down stuff at Coastal Carolina, that's been really good for us too. So the insert stuff we like that a lot, especially when we get into our heavier personnel packages for sure.
I was going to say, offenses are doing a full circle. All the stuff that we all grew up with, whether it was triple option, under center stuff, we got away from it. And then now you're seeing teams bring it back because defenses now have to readjust. They just got used to, okay, they're in 11 personnel, they're in 10 personnel, they're in 12. And all of a sudden they're in 22, they're in 23. And what are they doing? Oh, they're running buck sweeps coming back. How do we defend that? And, we cheat and do pin and pull. And I teach it I teach pin and pull buck sweep when the guards are pulling. I'm we're down, kicking out, we're going. So old school stuff's coming back. I'm curious on the wham because I want to really look more into that. So I try to tell, I have to sell it. I have to sell it to the coaching staff. This is what it is. I told them it's kind of like trap. You're kind of trapping a guy with a running back or a wing or a motion guy, and everybody else is just going up to the backers.
Mm-hmm. It's been a really good play for us. So we typically we had a few different ways that we ran it this year. So we just out of a basic Y off formation, right? So we would have we would always call, typically we would call the scheme towards the tight end because that way our center could slip the nose. And then our tight end would come back and wham that nose tackle. And we would obviously game plan it. We starting to see almost exclusively odd fronts nowadays. It's a rarity for us to see an even front now. And we still see some of those teams, we line up in an odd front, but they're still going to slant and become an even front, at post snap. So you'd have to toy around with, in the game plan, which way do we want to, go at them. But we liked it out of that set a lot. The other way that we had a lot of success was lining up in a tight end wing set with twins away and going under center and doing it like that. That was a good play for us. We actually, our rival Oak Creek, I think we played them week 7. That's really kind of how we sealed the game was with that play at the end. It ended up busting for like a 50-yard touchdown. So that's been really good. We ran it from a compressed double wing set that was really good. We ran an RPO off of it that was pretty dirty. So we'd have, the one wing, like let's say we're running it with the back is in gun right to the quarterback. So we would run, coming across towards the left. So we'd have the wing on the left would come and wham the nose. And then we ran basically like you see the Packers run that kind of arrow screen to the other tight end. And that was a really dirty play for us. We had a lot of success with that one throughout the season too. So it's a really good scheme, something that I didn't run until I got here, and our O-line coach really sold it to me, something that he really liked, and we threw it in. It's been very good for us.
Yeah, I wanted to look into that. I mean, I know it's not a hard play to do, but you're right. You have to scheme it up the right way. That's why, like ISO, we had ISO in the spring. But again, we talked about this beforehand. Like in Illinois, depending on what district you were in, we didn't see the football kids. We saw them for 2 weeks in October. Didn't see them again until February. Like we never saw them besides Zoom. So we had 2 weeks to install. New head coach, new offense, new defense, new jerk of an O-line coach and run game coordinator coming in to like change it. I had 2 weeks to prepare. So like some of that stuff I couldn't dabble in. And then I wanted to do it again this year, but we wanted to make sure, like we talked earlier, be good at a couple things. We had to pick. And I thought and the reason why I wanted to do it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we did a lot of ISO. We were a big ISO team in the spring, and we were big inside zone ISO again. But then they started to read the wing a lot. You could tell that's who they were reading. So that's where we did the zone insert, where if he's here and we're zoning away, let's see how they read that. And then can we just pop them on a vertical eventually? Like, are they going to, do whatever?
Yep.
And that's why I wanted to do the wham to even really see how they were reading it. And could we do something off of it? I want to see if I was correct in thinking that way of like, let's see how the linebackers move. Are they looking at this tight end or looking at this running back? Does it all fit together? And so that's why I'm going to do more into that. And I got to do more wide zone. I want to get into wide zone so bad.
Yeah. We kind of saw something similar to what you're saying. We started seeing a lot of teams run, they'll start in a two high shell, and then they're running, I know like Don Brown, I know calls it city coverage. And then like Dave Aranda called it key, where basically what they're doing is the safety to the side of where your tight end ends up is the one that's going to come down, and the other one will roll to the post. So we started seeing, especially the tight end that we had last year, the one that's now at Illinois, he was our best dude. I mean, he's a stud. He's 6'5", 230, and he could run, right? So he was a guy that we were trying to get the ball to. So a lot of, and we would do a lot of stuff, where we, fake zone or fake outside zone and sneak him underneath, right? And then slip him out the back door. I think teams started getting, they're seeing that, and they're having a hard time matching up with that because, we could get them outnumbered or, however. And so we started seeing that coverage a lot, where they'd roll the safety to wherever our tight end ended up going. And kind of the same thing that you're saying, a big thing then that we started doing was running play action off of that with pulling him underneath and then hitting something back to replace the other safety. So that was another big thing that we really liked off of it. But yeah, that's what you're saying is absolutely correct. Because when we would run ISO, then, let's say we kept him the tight end or wing on the same side, we'd insert him, and then you'd have the safety would automatically to his side would just come flying in and become that extra fitter. And they'd have us outnumbered at the point of attack. Right. So they had basically an unblocked guy that we couldn't get to. And so that was kind of another, like you were saying, a good answer to that was, to do a lot of the stuff where he was coming across. Cause I previously was always a big ISO guy and never ran wham, like I mentioned. So, when I think our line coach brought that in, and when I started seeing that ended up being a really, really good move for us putting that in.
Yeah. Cause in the spring we sometimes would run ISO. So if we called it wing right, obviously you have the wing on the right side, we could call ISO left and he'd come all the way across and insert there. And that's where I kind of was starting to think of the wham. Let's see how the linebackers are moving. If he's moving across, how are they moving? Like you said, can we hit somebody else? But like you said, I think we saw one even front team, like an actual 4-2-5 team. Everybody's going to the 3-5, or the Iowa thing's coming big.
The Iowa State stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's huge. And as an O-line coach, I love seeing the 3 linemen until we get the 4 eyes. Then I start to get mad because I got to deal with the 4 eyes, especially on ISO.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how would you deal with like a 4 eye? I would fold block it sometimes, kick the guard out, and wrap the tackle. That was a pain for me to deal with 4 eyes because teams would do that. Oh, they're an ISO team, 4 eyes, 4 techniques even. They sometimes go full 4 and just bring those linebackers down there like, go for it.
Yeah, we liked we don't see. I thought going into this year, right? Like I actually studied that Iowa State defense pretty extensively and met with several like high school coaches from around the country, like Ty Gower, Adam Gaylor, those guys who run it, trying to learn, like, okay, what are we going to see? What can we do that's going to be, tough against this? And the thing that we kept coming back to was, okay, well, if you go, into like some tight compressed sets, like it's hard to stay in that because then, you can really outnumber them at the point of attack, especially with how much outside zone that we run. So we ended up actually seeing it only one time all year. Our first conference game, the team came out in it. And the first, my response to it immediately was we have like a heavy package where we would bring in a 6 lineman. And I said, okay, play 3 safety. We'll bring another lineman in. And then that was the last time we saw it all year. I think teams were too afraid of, us going into that kind of stuff, and we never ended up seeing it. So.
Yeah, we saw a ton of 3-4, 3-5 all freaking year. But they'd always bring a linebacker down. You know how it is. They have the 3 down lineman, then they walk that guy up. I'm like, okay, now you're back in your 4. They play games. Everybody's doing it, except for us. We were a 4-2-5, so we practiced it all year. And people are doing it because the 0 technique messes people up. Like I said, 4 eyes. Like in the spring, we ran ISO. Like we had a drive that lasted for like 10 minutes one time. We ran ISO, I don't know, 10 times in a row. Then they came out in the bear front. They said, let's see what you got. So we tried to do something else. But teams start to do that all over the place.
We like too. Another play that's been good for us is just running just like basic split zone when we see the tight front. But what we do then is we would arc our tackle around and have the tight end basically like running wham, right? Just it's more of split zone because it's not the nose. And he would come in and just hit the 4 eye. That's been a good play. And we actually hit a bunch. We got some good wind back on that a few times because we got get a really good push down with the play side guard in the center on the nose. And then if you can hit that window in there and that backside tackle can get around and get that linebacker hooked, we had some big runs off of that.
That's a good one. And when I was at another school, we were big inside zone. We would do it where Ohio State runs it a lot. It's power read without the puller. You arc release the tackle. Everybody blocks inside zone the opposite, and he reads. And then you have a guy unblocked. Well, then flip the running back, motion a guy, and there's your, you're getting the eye candy going. And so it's power read without the puller because everybody runs power read. So at the school I was at, we were like, how do we do this without power read? Everybody else does it. We're not a power team. We're a zone team, but we wrinkle it. This was the only way. Great play. It was great RPO play. If you get their eyes looking that way, throw it right back the other way. It's great RPO.
Yeah, we started – speaking of Ohio State, we stole – and them in Oregon that I stole from was kind of the unbalanced quad stuff, where you got you cover a receiver up on the same side. So we would go – we'd be like 3 split receivers plus like an off the ball tight end all on the same side. And we'd still have the running back in the backfield. And we did that exact thing that you're talking, kind of like zone. I think that they call it bash is kind of a common name for it, where it's like basically inverted, like maybe inverted veer or something, whatever you want to call it. We had that in, and that, like you said, really good play. And then we had a few things we'd run some split zone off of that. Good set. And that was one of the things talking to some of those guys about the 3 safety defense that they said, that it gives us trouble when, you can get us outnumbered on one side of the field like that, because that's about the only way you can do it against that defense. So we did. That was the reason we put it in. Like I came up with a package of that stuff over the summer, thinking that we were going to see a bunch of 3 safety, and then we just really never saw it. And we still would use it occasionally against some of the 3, especially the big 3-4 slant teams. We liked it against that because it pulled our outside linebacker right out of the play. So we could kind of get them outnumbered out there. But yeah, another good package.
Yeah. I have to be careful. Sometimes I say bash and some don't know what that is. So I say power read without the puller.
Yep.
I'm stupid simple, but they run bash. Another good one was a coach told me, I don't know if you Coach Arnett, he's an O-line coach in Texas. He told me that if you start to get to the four eyes and you're running power, arc release the backside tackle, you run normal power, quarterback reads that. So it's normal power this way. If that four eye slants in, he just keeps and runs behind because they're coming inside. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good play. Yeah,
because I'm all about four eyes because that's all I saw. They want. Yeah. I think these coaches knew who I were somehow know me, and they were like, let's piss him off as much as we can. So that way he gets this four-eye linebacker thing going on.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of the in vogue thing right now for sure. It's growing more and more too.
Here's a controversial question I do with zone people. So with your inside zone, are you double teaming or are you doing traditional, like stay on your track and go? And
more like, I would go ahead, finish up what you're saying.
Oh no, well then to piss people off sometimes. If you are double teaming, is it inside zone or is it duo? That's the big question. You knew it was coming.
Yeah. I would say our block. Yeah, we're more duo style.
Okay.
Right. So we're gonna double. We're gonna find the double teams and we stick to the double teams. Yeah, we're not really a true full zone team. But I don't know that I would call it I mean, I don't know. My understanding, and I purposely stay out of these arguments because I know the guys will say, well, you got to insert the running back a certain way and he's got to read a linebacker. And, that's, we don't do, we do teach our running back to read linebackers. That to me has been really good for us. We made the change from, we used to be, let's read the first double team. And that kind of created some issues with the linebackers. So now we just said, okay, we're going to read the backside linebacker typically, which I think is what duo does. But technically, I don't know if it's the play side because I think you have to insert the running back on the same side. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a wild thing. But yeah, we are duo style blocking. So we're going to attack double teams.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is because it was a couple of years ago. I didn't know, like, I one day drew it up on Huddle, screenshotted it, put it up on Twitter, and I drew up our inside zone. It was double teaming. And I said, all right, guys, in your world, is this inside zone or duo? And it wasn't me being a jerk. I literally wanted coaches to respond to me and say, and hopefully I was going to learn something out of it. Good Lord, you want to start a fire. Because I was getting, somebody said that I just drew it in like 5 seconds on Huddle, and they said, oh, you drew the running back wrong. Like you said, like because of the path you drew, it's this. Or, well, because of this, inside zone is everybody steps to the right or left and goes. Then they said, well, the angle you have this double team, it's a duo. And I was like, what? And they said, it's all the double team angles. Like inside zone, you're trying to get into double team the way they're going. Duo, they're going the other way. And I said, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. That was probably the most comments I've ever gotten on a post.
Oh, ever. Yeah. I know. I remember watching a clinic from it's from Steve Ensminger, who was the offensive coordinator at LSU back in 19. He did a clinic on, it was just an online one, I know. And he talked about their duo scheme, which is kind of some of the stuff that we stole. That we really like, kind of that 3-by-1 tight bunch. And then, you run like basically cutoff zone where the tight end just caps off the defensive end. And that's been a great play for us, especially like in the goal line area. But yeah, so I know when he talked about it, it was duo, but I know for us, it's just we're running zone left with a tight end blocking the defensive end. So I don't know really what the difference is, but
yeah, I don't know either. I've seen where that's exactly the same. Except maybe they're blocking the defensive end. Everything's the same but that. I've seen where it's like wham, where you have some guy blocking the end that's not a lineman and everybody's double teaming. And then I've seen it where it looks like ISO, but again, somebody else is blocking like in that. And the last time I ever looked at it, it was this football season. I saw a video where they said they're just aiming points. So like if you call duo right, they're trying to get to the left side linebacker and we'll take care of the right. And I said, okay, so it's aiming points. That's the difference. And yeah, I was wrong for being inside zone double teaming, but we did it at a school I was at. We tried traditional, didn't work. And we said, how do we move the line of scrimmage? And we said, what if we double team? And we get going there.
Yeah, that's kind of our thought process with zone is we're more so trying to get displacement up front, the vertical displacement with the double teams. And then if we want to get horizontal, that's when we go wide zone. So that's kind of where we've gotten. And I mean, the thing for us too is we're really more of a, pass, set up, the run type team. That's kind of where we're at. So we, if we're going to get a heavy box, like, we're not going to beat our head against the wall. We're not that kind of team. It's, and for me, I personally am a big passing guy. I study passing game and coverages a ton. So, I just probably inherently lean more towards calling pass plays, but obviously we run the ball when we get the chance. So,
well, that's why I love talking to air raid coaches, because it was Coach Taylor over in North Carolina that he's air raid through and through, Hal Mummy guy. And when I talked to him, he goes, yeah, we threw the ball for like 4,000 or 5,000 yards. But he goes, but Steve, we ran for 2,000 or 3,000 yards at the same time. And I'm like, so you can run the ball and throw it? And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, I'm not an idiot. If it's an empty box, we're going to run it. Like, is that how you approach it? Like, we're going to pass, and as soon as I see 5 men in the box, we're gone. Like, it's a run.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're good with a 6-man box too. Depending on we're probably 11 personnel 85% of the time, I'd say. We're very rarely I mean, we'll line up, we're kind of like the all 11 style. Like what you'd say, kind of. I know that was sort of an in vogue term for a little while here, stemming kind of from LSU and what they did. Is so we very rarely change the personnel on the field unless we're going into, like a heavier package, like or we do get into 21 from time to time. But yeah, we would spread him around a lot. But yeah, I mean, we're primarily, 6-man box. We're okay with that. If I preferred, Miles, our quarterback, for the past couple of years, I didn't want to run him a lot. So, if we were going to run zone into a 6-man box without a tight end, that was pretty rare, but probably 10 times the whole season we did that. But yeah, otherwise we're a lot of, 11 personnel stuff, tight end, whether he's on the ball, off the ball, whatever. But yeah, we're good with the 6-man box, but we're definitely a pass set up to run type team. We the way that I script out our first 4 plays, and I'd say, I bet I would be surprised if there were more than a couple of games where there was more than one run in those 4 plays. Like, it's probably more likely to get 3 passes and a screen than anything. That's kind of where we were at. So,
that's why I'm a big air raid guy. I don't know why. I've tried to bring that over with me. Like, I like the reads of it. I think it's simple. The pro style stuff you're talking about worries me sometimes with quarterbacks, because I'm an idiot. If I was ever, because I was an OC at like 24 years old. I was really young. Yep. So being the idiot, you're trying to teach this quarterback all the coverages and everything else. Then I saw the air raid, and that's why I just always do that. So the pro style stuff scares me. Pro style passing scares me, because you have to teach them like where they're lined up, instead of me being a basketball coach also like, oh, just find the open grass. Look at this guy. Is he open? Is this open? See it coming forward. Have you ever like looked air raid and combined it with your stuff, or like
I mean, like our most of our 3-level stuff, I would say, is probably, like a sail concept, our field flood concept is basically just, that's an air raid play, right? You're going to get 3-level. We're more of we like to run the post from number 1, and then we vary how, we probably do it 95% of the time from a 3x1 set, and we vary the routes, as far as what the flat route is. Like, our base way would be 1 on a post, 2 on like either a quick 5-yard out or like a whip route, and then 3 would run the sail route. Now we teach the sail route to make it look like our 3 verticals play. So we have him kind of attack the middle of the field. So you've probably seen this from, like, I know the Chiefs do something similar to this, and it's kind of where I got the idea from, is you have, like, they'd have Travis Kelce really kind of attack like he's running across the field, but then he'd whip it back out on that sail route. So it takes a little bit longer to develop, but the way that we teach the read is really more of like on that play would be kind of a high-low, right, post to either out or whip. So like you think about like eye movement, and this is a Dub Maddox thing. If you have his book, I think it's Capology, the most recent one, kind of the eye movement features of it. So, you're looking kind of in like a tube, coming vertical, and then the next 2 routes where you got the sail route coming out at 15, And then our backside is running a dig coming across that 15. So it's, you know, up and down, and then immediately from, you know, let's say we're, you know, trips right, up post down to whip route, and then it's immediately across sail route right into dig route. So the routes, they mesh right into each other like that. So we try to, I try to do my best with that stuff, and it doesn't always work out, but like what you're saying is, like, yeah, pro style passing can be a pain in the butt to teach to kids. So we try to find ways like that to structure how we run the play to make it a little bit easier for them, so that we don't necessarily have to always say, okay, well, it's this coverage, you got to do this. So that from what we do makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So that's been good for us. But yeah, the air raid stuff I do think is good as far as, like, you know, just pure progression. Like, I don't care what coverage they're in. We definitely have some plays that are like that for sure. You know, a lot of, like I said, our 3-level stuff is pretty similar to that. So those have been really good.
Yeah, I think I should have PTSD for being a young coach and saying, here's your pass plays, we got to coach this. And you're a young coach and you're like, all right, this is cover 2, this is cover 3, this is quarters, this is this. And you're teaching this 15-year-old quarterback, unless he's a Division I kid that just gets it. But when you've got a normal Joe kid like me, and you're like, all right, this, and this, when this happens and this happens, and you're teaching them, and you're like, this isn't working. Obviously, teach them when it's too high, maybe you look here first. When it's one high, look over here first. But so it's PTSD. So that's why when I saw air raid, I was like, this is right up my alley. Because talking to another coach, another play I liked, he showed it to me, was they ran wide cross like air raid stuff. But if they're in 2x2 on the left side, I think it was either side, you ran smash on one side and the cross coming underneath, and put that safety in bind, because he had to pick the corner or the cross. It was Justin Clark. He's a run and shoot guy, so he combined the air raid and run and shoot stuff. And he goes, smash, and you cross right in the middle, then you got a dig coming right behind it. So now you're putting more pressure where that's coming from. And he goes, he's combining them. And so that's why I like to look at different passing offense and see how you combine them. Like, how can you combine? So
our 3 verticals is structured very similar to that. You know, I mentioned, like, we're going to have the 3 verticals somehow with 2 flat routes. So the way that we start the progression, right, is, you know, and I said, you know, it's kind of stolen from that LSU doubles concept, and it's basically meshed with, like, the Chip Kelly Y cross, right? He called it like bubble Y, you know, the Mariota thing. I always think back to that, the Gruden's QB camp in Mariota. They just called it bubble Y over. So it's going to essentially be like a smash concept on one side, you know, so we might be like, our base way of doing it, if we're just out of doubles, would be, you know, number 1 to the play side on a go, 2 is on a bubble. And then our backside, number 2 is running that middle read route. And then the number 1 is running like a streak read. So he can either just run a go anywhere down to basically a dig, like you're mentioning. So it does kind of have some elements of like run and shoot into it, because especially those 2 backside guys, have the ability to essentially adjust from going straight vertical to running it like almost a double dig route, right? So that's been a really, like you were saying, you know, you put a lot of stress on safeties with that, especially to the front side. You know, like if you're playing a Palms 2 read team, you know, they're going to jump a bubble with the corner. The safety's got to get out over number 1. Well, he just created a ton of space for that middle read to adjust his route to find space, right? And then if the backside safety is going to, you know, try to stay over top of that, okay, well, now your streak read on the backside from that number 1 can adjust into that space as long as he can beat the corner. So yeah, that's been very, very similar to what you're saying. And it's been, like I said, our best pass concept, and it's not close.
Yeah, he showed me that. And again, I have my own personal playbooks, and I always try to sneak them in. Like, well, look at this one; it looks great, and, you know, and I just like, I have to talk to him more. He's combined the run and shoot and air raid, and it looks like unbeatable. Of like, but it's run and shoot scares me more than anything, with the choice routes and all that. And he told me how they did it to an extent, because the run and shoot club you cannot get into unless you have the card.
Right.
But I like that. And then, you know, they did things with shallow and how they could really, really pressure the linebackers with the dig and a post right behind it and all that stuff. And like you said, it's a level read of like here, back, where you got something else.
Yeah, and something it's been good for us too, as far as like the language that we use with our receivers on those routes, is we don't teach it like, okay, if then, you know, we teach it, do this unless this happens. And that slight tweak in the language of how we teach that has made a huge difference from where our guys used to be to now, because it used to be, okay, well, if he does this, then you do this. Well, every kid kind of had his own interpretation of that. So we'd always be, off by a little bit. But now that we've said, okay, well, if you're that middle read guy, you are running down the middle of the field unless the safety, the front side safety gets over the top of one and that backside safety is working to get over top of you. Like that's the only time that you bend it off, or they're just post safety in the middle of the field. Those are the only unless times that we have with that route. So that little tweak in language has helped us. Maybe something that guys can steal.
Oh, I'll steal it. Like I said, I've talked to a lot of coaches on this podcast over like a year and a half or so. Coach Timmerman, who's a big wide zone guy, he said that to me with offensive linemen on this. He's like, if you say certain words in the brain, it sticks and means this. Like when you say drive off the foot, or do you mean push off the foot? Like just little tweaks of words makes them understand it better. And I said, so what you're telling me is I have to go back to school and get my psychology thing so I understand. And he was like, no, you're just a football coach. You already know. You just know how the brain is going to tweak that.
I know there's a book, I think it's called Made to Stick. It might be, I think it's a book about like sales, but it dealt a lot with language and that kind of stuff. And I remember, I think that's where I got that from. Another coach, I can't remember who recommended that. I remember it was on Twitter one time I saw, and they threw it out there and said, and I bought it on Amazon. And I'm pretty certain that's where I got that from, this unless. So that's a good one if you can get your hands on that book. I think, and there might be a second one too, if I remember correctly. So that was good.
Add it to my book collection because I got you said the capology one. I have to get that one because
I
have this R4 one somewhere. It's up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to watch
capology is good. Yeah, it's good because he's got different, like what are I forget how exactly he worded it, but basically like, he goes through specific routes and okay, well, what or how can this route be in interception danger or something like that? Like what are the different things defenses do to take away this one specific route? And then, kind of what are the most common things? And then you can, tell your quarterbacks that stuff. So yeah, you had that in there. And then the eye movement stuff was really good too. I like that a lot. I've always been really big on that. Cause I know for me, like I never played quarterback. Like I we talked about this before, the wing T. Like I played in high school for a wing T team, right? So we would go games and we never threw the ball, right? So when I was learning the passing game, it was always hard for me to like bounce around. Like, okay, well, I got this route going this way, but then the number 2 route is running the other direction, right? And that was always strange to me because I'd look at it and I'd say, well, I don't know what's out in front of that route, right? Like there's a guy, and I remember reading an article about Aaron Rodgers, this is a few years back, about how he had this strategy. It was like inside, outside, inside. Like he always had this particular thing that he did with his eyes to alleviate that. And I'm thinking like, oh, that's cool. And then I tried it with my quarterback. And I'm like, oh shit, my quarterback's not Aaron Rodgers. Like he can't do this, So we had to, we really work hard, like I said, to structure the routes now where like a lot of times, like when quarterback's eyes are moving like back across the field, I like to have the routes coming into their vision, or at least the way that their eyes can scan. That way they're not trying to catch up to a route from behind. Because what I found, like kind of what you were saying, you get PTSD from when I was a coordinator, my quarterback throwing just what I thought were just terrible interceptions. Like, why, how does this happen? And then you go back and look at it and it's like, well, shit, he probably didn't see the guy out in front of it because he was scanning behind it and, he had no way to see it. So that's for us, something that I really try to do to try to ease that burden on the quarterbacks. Cause like you say, and that can be a confidence killer for a kid too, right? Like, so that's worked well for us and something that I really try to do with as much as I can. It doesn't work out all the time. Sometimes, it's just based off what a defense is doing. It doesn't work, but.
Right. Like that's why I think it was right before COVID. Dub Max was at a suburb in Chicago up here, Oak Brook, for the Glacier Clinic. I think it might have been right before COVID. Yeah,
we go to that one almost every year. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be there. Well, I gotta get out of basketball first, and then I'll be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were there. I think that's where it was, and he was teaching the cap stuff, and in a book, it's you know, you can read and learn about seeing it live. And like you're talking about the levels of like, okay, this is already capped. He's not going to look like out in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept going over and he kept pointing at coaches, like, how would you say this terminology? How do you say this terminology? And we were all like in unison, like saying it. He goes, you already got it. You already know. Like
right.
he got the room lived up and we were like, okay, we get it. Like,
nice.
And he was like, you guys are ready to write your own book. And
yeah, right. Yeah, he has a lot of good stuff. We're not like a pure R4 team, but I definitely like the influence of what he has put out is big on me. Like I do try to have, you know, again, you want like a rhythm route, a read route, a rush route, but that doesn't work universally for us. We're more of probably a lot more of the two rhythms makes a read and that kind of stuff. Those ones rather than the true 1, 2, 3 progression type thing. So.
Yeah, I think that's what most teams are, unless you're coaching with him or he comes and shows you.
Yeah, exactly.
Like coaches that do those camps, they show up and they put their offense in. If he came and did that, you probably understand it 100%.
Oh yeah, totally.
But, yeah. Reading the book, I had to reread it during COVID, and I'm like, yeah, but I need to see. I'm a visual person, so I'm like, yeah, I read it and I understand it, but I have to see it.
Yeah.
Like Coach Kenny Simpson.
Me too. I'm the same way.
Kenny Simpson, who does his, you know, gun tee, you know, and he travels around and installs it. He sent me like 3 of his books, and I can read it and understand it. You want to talk about an offense? You guys might do it. That's a crazy offense he's got going.
Yeah,
old school.
I've seen some of it. Yeah,
I have to send him a message. He's bringing me back towards that stuff. Like, I'm liking Buck Sweep. I'm liking this. I want to send him a message. How can I do inside zone with it? Like, how does that work? He probably told me to shut up. Are you think? I think you talked about this. Did you do like a throwback tight end screen? I think that's what you said earlier. That's
so we had a couple different ways that we did that off of out of play action. So we would do, and it's primarily from under center when we did that. Not always. We've done it in the past where we would go like a single with nub tight end trips away, and then we would actually like roll like a sprint out and then throw back to the tight end that way. That was the original way that we were doing it. And now we've gotten to, you know, like we'll go, okay, we're 2x2 compressed under center. We'll fake outside, like let's say tight end left. We'll fake outside zone to the right. The quarterback will actually set up, boom, turn, throw the screen back to the tight end. But we got, you know, everything else is selling play action the other way, right? So we got our receivers running like, you know, corner and an out plus a deep cross going across the field. And the defense is probably thinking, okay, well, they're going to max protect here and throw play action. No, we're throwing the tight end screen. So we did that a couple different ways. We do some things with him motioning back across. Like we ran, it would be out of like a 3x1 set, and we would fake, and, you know, he'd come back like he's going to, you know, like split zone, like he's going to seal across or even sneak out the back door. And then we'd roll front side and then throw it back to him that way. That one was a good one for us. Like those a lot. Our tight end this year was only a sophomore, so we didn't do it as much as we have in the past. But he's going to be around for 2 more years, so I'd anticipate that being a pretty regular staple for us going forward here. Yeah,
I was going to ask this real quick because I know I'm taking a lot of your time. I'll get faster.
No, good. All good.
One thing I stole from Brent Dearman, it was a couple years ago. He came out with his RPO book, and this was when I was younger. I was a new offense coordinator, and he actually sent it to me for free, which was really cool. It was on Apple. I'll never forget. He told people to buy it, and I remember commenting, and I said, I will when I get paid. Like when I get money, I'll get it. He goes, what's your email? And just sends it to me. And I was like, oh, this is
nice.
Cool. He always had where his H-back, his sniffer, they always block. They won't block the end, but they wrap around to block. He sets up a go or the slip out, you know, and I stole that, and that just opened it up of like, oh, they're always blocking. And then we called it pop, where he took off, or we would just say, you know, like release or unlock, and it would just send him. And then we tried to get it to where like left guard or left tackle would go and then come back. Like you're talking about, kind of set a screen up. Do you have tags for that guy to always go block or to slip him out, or is it just automatic? Like it's just built in?
Well, in the run game, it would be a tag. In our Passing game, it depends on the protection call. So we all of our protection calls are just colors, right? So we have different colors that indicate, what we're doing, like how many guys are in the protection, what way, what direction it's going. Like, for instance, just like our base protection is just black and brown. That's just our base 6-man pass pro, So like black would indicate that, okay, the play side is to the left, that's going to be the side where and it could vary where the back is going. Our line has the ability to change that. Brown would indicate it's to the right. So we have different colors that would indicate that. But in our play action, what we do is we'll tag a color. And we'll say the color plus the run play that we're faking. And then the color will tell the tight end which one to do. Like there's one that just tells him. So we have 3 of them, right? We got one that tells him, stay where you are. 2, another one that tells it to send him back across. And then 3 is you're running a route. So we have different ways of doing that. So that's how we indicate that to him. And that's been a pretty good deal for us. We originally started with only 1 and we had to tell him every time, or he just had to know, and it got to the point where, okay, well, we got like 5 different play action passes in this week and he's doing something different on all of them. And his brain's going haywire trying to remember all this stuff. So we started just continually adding more colors, which good and bad, I guess another thing for everybody to know, but I think it made it simpler for that guy, especially when he was kind of the key dude, whether we're trying to use his movement to, like, we talked about earlier, to pull a safety down, or we need him in protection on the backside as max protect. So that's been a good thing for us.
Yeah. Cause when I was OC, it was just automatic split zone all the time, but go block the end. So if the quarterback kept it, he could run. And then the past, I keep saying 2 years, but we had 2 football seasons in 1 year. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's just absolutely crazy. So back in the spring, when we had snow on the ground, it was just automatic. He was going out all the time. And then coming into this year, I said, what if we do it where he never touches the end, just wraps around like Brent Dearman always does. So if we do keep it, the reason why he's going to keep is because that end's coming down anyway. He's lead blocking for the running back. And then we tag it. So like you said, but we only did a couple at that. But then all of a sudden we started tagging the insert, and then we started doing that. But we built up to that. But I liked that because some teams it's just built in, but I liked how you could tag it. That's why I like the zone stuff. You could tag it. I like the pop game. Like you said, if they open it up, RPO it, just read the one guy and just throw it right over the top.
We've had good success with that the RPO game off of those things too, whether it be wham or split zone. That's typically, for the most part, how we've done that. We used ISO in the past, but again, I think with the way that we talked about some of the stuff the teams are doing with the tight end, that became hazardous running ISO with it. So we did a lot more of the stuff where we kept him in the backfield, whether it was wham, split zone. And then another good RPO was like I talked about before, like the center down, pulling the center stuff. We like that a lot, especially where you'd run. We had a good one. I think our 4th round playoff game where we'd pull the center into the boundary. Their odd front typically walked up the outside back in the boundary. We'd have a tight end to the field. I take that back. Tight end would be in the boundary. So we would down block everybody, down block the end. The center would pull, kick the outside backer, and we'd run it like a design cutback. And then we had the receiver into the boundary run a glance route, and we'd read the boundary safety. So that ended up being a really good play. So you'd get if the safety, what ended up happening was the safety would cover the glance route. The wind back on that trap, it was money for us. We had a couple of huge gains off of that. It's a really good one for us.
Yeah, I may steal that.
Yeah. Yeah, Coastal's got some good stuff. If you got the guys that can do it, for sure. Yeah, big fan of that.
We'll have linemen that look like them. We're going to be small, so maybe I can pull it off.
Yeah.
I will not have one senior lineman next year. Not one.
See, and we had 6 this year, so this was a good year for us. Six good ones too. So that helped.
Yeah, we had 4 starting and 1 sophomore.
Yep.
So we will not we'll have 4 seniors total on the team. Total.
Okay.
At a school of 2,000.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, we're kind of in the same boat. We have a small senior class coming back. Really big sophomore and freshman classes come, each about 50 kids in each class. So we're looking forward to that. Those will be some good groups again, but we might have a tough one this coming year.
Well, expectations will be high. You just won the state title. They're going to expect you to win again.
Yeah. Well, we could. I think in 2 years we'll have a better shot once those sophomores are up there. But yeah,
we're not going to win no state title. I mean, I don't know, but we had a rough year. Roughest year I've seen in 13 years. Roughest.
Okay.
I need my hands and my toes to count the injuries.
Oh, okay.
And I blame it on playing football from March till April and then doing it again. It was collarbones. It was ankles. It was.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. See, we were lucky. I know we played a couple of teams that played in the spring, and they seemed to kind of have the same issue. But we were lucky. We ended up avoiding the injury bug. We did not lose a starter all year to injury, which is, I guess that's one of the things that it's going to take to win a state title probably is stuff like that. The guys that we did have get injured for them, were backups or, younger guys. Typically we had a couple of scout team guys get blown up in practice and get injured, but really, yeah, we were lucky to avoid that. And what you're saying, I think is true too. The teams that played in the spring and then turned around and did it again right away. Yeah, for sure. I think those are the teams that you look across the field and you're like, they got a lot of dudes out. It was usually those teams.
Well, like you as a quarterback coach are going to roll over in your grave. We had so many injuries. We played 5 different people at quarterback this year. That's just it. Our first quarterback, second quarter of the game, first game, jaw broken. Kid came down, head down. Next quarterback, 2 games later, breaks collarbone. Later on, the other quarterback gets a concussion. So we have to get a wide receiver to play quarterback. They teach another wide receiver to play quarterback and do a wildcat. It was just, we lose our tight end in the summer to rugby towards ACL. It was a 6'5", 240-pound tight end as a sophomore. We're like, oh my God, lose him. Backup tight end, that's a good basketball player. Ankle sprain for 3 weeks. Like it was just nonstop of injuries. That's tough. And I do blame it on no weightlifting in the off season. Then you play a spring season, then you come back in the summer, then you play again.
Yep.
And it was full. Like in Illinois, you get 9 regular season games. In the spring, they said you get 6. So we played 6. If you want a 7th, you schedule it on your own. But each sport overlapped. Like as a coach, there was one day I did all 3 sports in one day. Track in the morning, football in the afternoon, basketball at night. Like it was just boom, boom, boom.
That's wild. Yeah. Yeah. We were lucky. We didn't have that issue. We had you could choose for us in 2020. You could play in the spring, or you could stay in the fall, or you could opt into the spring season. And I think most teams still played in the fall. It was probably like, I don't know the exact number. I think from what I remember, it was somewhere around 70% still played in the fall. But yeah, they did still have some. Like it was typically like a whole conference would decide, okay, we're going to bump to the spring. That's kind of how it went. Like we had a weird deal in our league. We had so we have 8 teams in our league. We had 1 city in our league, Racine, Wisconsin. Their school district decided that they were going to opt to play in the spring, but all the rest of our league played in the fall. So we only ended up playing 5 games because of that, which was that's a whole nother hour-long talk right there about that whole thing.
I could create a political podcast after this COVID stuff, but I'll probably get canceled or something.
Right.
But I could make a whole podcast book. We could all write a book after all this craziness. To slowly wrap it up, because I've taken all your time. It's nighttime. For us, it's finals week. So it's fine. It's whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're not there yet. We have finals after break. So we're weird like that.
Friday at 1:05 p.m. I'm on Christmas break. That's what we're looking at.
I wish we got to go to Wednesday.
Well, I wish, but we have to come back January 3rd. If we
yeah. So do we.
Oh, well, stupid.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I agree with you. It is stupid.
Where I coach basketball at, they'll go till next Wednesday, and then they don't come back, the January 8th or 9th?
Oh, I wish, man.
I wish
Yeah,
too.
no.
Like, do you ever get into it with people that say throwing the football is bad? Like, have you ever gotten involved in one of those arguments before? You know, it's always been the wing tee versus the throwing of the ball. You seem like you're both. You're under center. You'll please people because you're under center, but you're also going to throw it. Like, why do people think throwing the football is so bad?
Yeah, I mean, I know a big thing here in Wisconsin, at least, and I hear this every year, is like, well, if you want to win in Wisconsin, you got to be able to run the ball, because when you get to the playoffs, it's going to be cold, you know, it's going to be snowing or raining or whatever, right? And I think to a degree, yeah, that's true. I don't know that up here you could get away with being a team that just threw it 50 times a game, because you're inevitably, you're going to run into some bad weather, like we did our second round playoff game. I mean, we averaged 50 points a game this year, right? Our second round playoff game, we scored 10 because it was a monsoon outside. It was like 38 degrees. It was 30-mile-an-hour winds, and it was raining. It was literally raining sideways. It was miserable. The worst playing conditions I've ever seen it. Yeah, we couldn't throw, and the wind was coming straight out of the north, so literally straight down the field. So if you were going north on the field, you're not throwing the ball. Right. It didn't matter. We got a D1 quarterback. It didn't really matter. So I think to an extent, I can understand that. And I know going into the state championship game, there's a guy that runs like there's a website in Wisconsin, kind of like the Prep Sports. I know you guys have, I forget the guy's name in Illinois that you guys have. He's kind of that dude in Wisconsin. Right. And he runs like this website, and he put a thing out on Twitter that said, you know what, I forget what it was. It was something about how, like, a majority of the time, the team that throws less in the state championship game wins. So saying basically, if you're the team that throws the ball more, you're less likely to win. And I remember seeing that and thinking, like, well, like, what is that? I mean, if you're better at it, like, what does it matter? I mean, we ended up throwing it less, and we won. So I guess we proved him right. However, it was more so because, you know, the end of the game, we really just iced it by pounding it right down their throat. You know, we our last drive of the game, I think we had the ball for 10 minutes in the fourth quarter of the state title game. We just methodically went inside, outside zone, just right down the field, just pounded them. So yeah, I mean, I can understand it to an extent, but I don't know. If that's what you're good at, I think you do what you're good at, right? Like, I've never bought into this thing like we have to run the ball. You know, we ran the ball because we had a really good O-line. We had two really good running backs. Like, if we didn't have our quarterback, you know, who's going to Wisconsin, sure, we would have ran the ball a hell of a lot more. But it's just the way that it works out. And fortunately for us, like, our program, you know, we have a really good youth program. It goes all the way down to second grade. So kids are, you know, 7 and 8 years old running our stuff. They're throwing the ball at that level, you know, so that's what we're good at. And that's really what, like, our program, so they won the state title back in 2006. Right. And they're kind of the first team in the state of Wisconsin. Well, I shouldn't say the first, one of the first, but they really went all in on the spread because it was different back then. Right. And we've really stuck with that, you know, since then. I mean, we probably, now I'd have to look and see, but I got to imagine we have to be probably this century, probably at minimum in the top 5 as far as passing goes in the state. I mean, we throw it more than anybody else around where we are. Because partially, I think it's different, right? Like, and in the playoffs, like, the way that our groupings work is they kind of group you into four groups of 8, right? And it's typically based on your region of where you are. So, like, we're in the Milwaukee area, so we typically get grouped in the Southeast region. Well, this year the Southeast region was pretty stacked, right? Like, almost all the really top teams were in our area, so they actually sent us north because we were the number 1 seed. You know, top ranked the whole state or the whole season. We were number 1. So they sent us north. And I think those teams up north I don't, from what I can tell and what I don't like follow everybody, but they had never seen a passing team like us. And I think they were some teams, like we played our round 3 game, a team that's traditionally really good, but they were just in the state title game 2 years ago. And we blew them out. I mean, we were up 35-0 on them at one point, because I think they just had never seen a team that could throw the ball like we could. And that's what gives us our advantage. So I can understand to an extent, you know, what you're saying, like, some guys will be like, oh, you got to run the ball. You got to do this. And there's advantages to it. Like for us, yeah, we used it a lot to set up the play action this year. And that was money for us. So I love that. But yeah, I mean, to me, we're going to do what we're good at, and we're really good at throwing the ball. So
you got to do what you're good at. I hope that game, the game that it rained sideways, you went to the box. Like, I'm going to go be in the box.
I'm always in the box, actually. So it was perfect. Yeah, I was still soaking wet from being outside for the hour warm up, though. But
I'm that guy. I'm on the sideline. Then as soon as it starts, I'm like, I'll be up in the box. I'm going to go switch. I'll be up there. I just always thought it was funny. I love watching the debates. You don't see it as much on Twitter, so it's been very quiet. It ramped up during the height of COVID, and then I think everybody was over it, so you don't see it anymore. But I could be wrong. We're getting into the winter time. You're probably going to see it again.
Probably, yeah. You'll get the past haters will come back out again, and
Mike Leach is soft and all that stuff. You're going to see all that come out and all that.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand why you could say that about that style of play. Sure, like it works for them. I mean, if you can recruit the guys, that's a little different at the college level to me. But versus us, we got to kind of deal with what we got. So
yeah, we don't recruit. Well, Coach, I took a lot of your time, probably more than I intended to, but
no worries.
I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for rescheduling because I have to be a nerd on Thursday night, and I got the ticket to see Spider-Man, so I have to go.
Oh, I'll be there with my son at some point, I'm sure.
I did not stay up till midnight to buy it because I'm not – believe it or not, I woke up the next morning. I was like, let me just look. And there was only like 2 tickets bought at the theater down the street. And I was like, okay, bought it. I went back and looked this morning. It's sold out now. And I was like, I got it. 8 o'clock Thursday night. I'll be up till like midnight. But yeah, I had to be a nerd. So thanks for rescheduling.
No problem.
I was like, wait a minute. What do I have Thursday? Oh, yeah. Spider-Man. And I'm a big Benedict Cumberbatch fan too. So I have to go watch that.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. My son's a huge Spider-Man. He's been Spider-Man for Halloween like 3 years in a row. So.
Hey, I heard it's a good movie, so hopefully you guys will go. I heard it's good.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thank you for coming on. I'll try to get you back on at some point. I want to talk more quarterback stuff, but I like overall offense. But one day, maybe if you'll come back, we'll talk more quarterback. You can teach me some things
for sure.
Quarterback play. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Go follow Coach Ambrose on Twitter. What's your Twitter in case they don't know?
I think it's at Drew Ambrose _ Let me see. Yeah, at Drew Ambrose and then 1_ right after it. Yep.
All right, go follow him. If you live under a rock and you haven't followed him, go do that.
Yeah, right.
But thank you. Thanks guys for listening. We'll see you next time.